All right.
You talk, I'll bring it up.
I bring you greetings from the newly installed Most Worshipful Grandmaster Jim Christensen of Minnesota and the 13,000, unfortunately, down another chunk this year, Masons in Minnesota. Wasn't expecting to have to do this. When I registered for this conference, I was going to come simply as the Lodge Education Officer of Mankato Lodge 12 in Minnesota. Within a couple of weeks after, completely unrelated to this, I got a phone call from Jim Christensen, who was then Deputy Grandmaster. My first reaction was, what the heck did I do now? That I was getting a phone call from the Deputy Grandmaster. And he asked me if I would be willing to become the new Grand Lodge Education Officer of Minnesota. Last Saturday, 1 week ago, I was installed in that position, so I can now tell you about the progress of Minnesota Grand Lodge education programs for the last week. Because prior to that, my focus was on Mankato Lodge 12. Broadening out, I've discovered, one of the things that was interesting in the installation, brothers, was, we communicate through symbols. And symbolically, while Grand Lodge is in session, to the immediate right of the Grand Master is the Deputy Grand Master. To the immediate left of the Grand Master is the Grand Lodge Education Officer. I think that says something, at least symbolically, of what Minnesota is trying to say about the importance of Masonic education in Minnesota. But then when you get down to the nuts and bolts, I've already started looking into what do I have to work with. And I found out we've only got about 70 lodge education officers in 152 lodges, even though it is a requirement that the master appoint a lodge education officer. So that's one of the first things I'm going to have to be working on, is trying to improve on that number. I know in some of our old rural lodges it's simply not going to happen, but if I can improve that number, it would be a good thing. A couple of things that I think are important for us to work on. One is the what we call the Masonic Light Program. The Masonic Light Program was started in the early 1970s, became somewhat moribund, somewhat inactive. I think was probably brought back mostly to life by Ed Halpus during the time he was the Grand Lodge Education Officer. The Masonic Light Program is an interesting thing where there's 9 categories of individual activities for Masons to do. And in these categories are different projects. You can, for example, in Masonic history, you might read a book on a local history book, a national history book on Masonic history. You get some points for that. Then if you do up a little paper on it, you get points for doing the paper. Your lodge education officer signs off on it. If you then do a presentation in lodge, you get some additional points. So you can get off that one book quite a few points. Once you complete 100 points in each category, you get a sticker. Like I said, there's 9 categories. If you get 7 stickers on your little certificate, and I should of course point out that the minute you register for the Masonic Light Program, you get a lapel pin. And, I mean, it wouldn't be Masonic if you didn't get a lapel pin out of the deal. And speaking of which, for your Masonic lapel pin collectors, I do have the new Grandmaster lapel pins here with me today that I can distribute. And once you complete 7 of the 9 categories, your choice which ones you want to work on, then you receive a personally engraved breast jewel from the Grand Master of Minnesota or his designee, depending on, and they've been relatively rare. I'm sorry, what's that?
And the coin.
Oh, okay, I was not even aware of the coin. So, okay, and a coin. And there's been, I believe, 27 of them given out in the entire time that has completed 9. That's what I was told by our district representative. So it's a relatively rare thing. Another one that I think probably doesn't carry as much thought of the importance as it really is the Wayfaring Man program. And the Wayfaring Man program has just only got 3 levels, and it has to do with traveling around and visiting other lodges. You start out in your own district and attend a couple lodges and an entered apprentice degree. Then you go out to your area and you attend a couple of more lodges and a Master Mason degree, but that has to be outside of your district. And then the 3rd level, the traveler level, you have to go to lodges, to visit some lodges outside of the jurisdiction of the Grand Lodge of Minnesota. And that was one of the first things that I found out about this, because I started getting questions already. Some brothers are saying that, well, Wisconsin lodges aren't getting back to them. They don't know what to do for finishing this. And my first reaction was, why don't they visit some Prince Hall lodges up in the Twin Cities? They said, well, that's in Minnesota. I said, however, not under the jurisdiction of the Grand Lodge of Minnesota. And I spoke to the Grand Master of Prince Hall Masons, and he said, that would be wonderful. We'd love to have you guys come over. You know, he said, if there's any problems at all, here's my card. You call me directly, and I'll make sure it's done. I'll make sure it's taken care of. So that's pretty much where we are, and I'm probably already running up on my 5 minutes. Like I said, I'm a college professor. I hardly get warmed up in 5 minutes. So unless there's any questions about what's going on in Minnesota, I'll go ahead and wrap up. Like I said, I have pins available. And also I'm going to take advantage, since Sean mentioned that he had the brochures for the Philalethes Society. I'm a fellow of the Masonic Society, which is not a competing but a complementary organization, because I don't know about you guys, I can never get enough Masonic journals showing up in my mailbox. So I have brochures here with me today. The Masonic Society asked me if I would bring them because they were unable to send an official representative from the organization, but I am a fellow of the Masonic Society. So I will also I'll pass a stack of those around. Everybody can grab one. Any questions on the state of Masonic education for the last week in Minnesota? Yes, sir.
I'll ask you, speak about previous, how long ago did this program roll out? Did you say that one that you're talking about with the stickers and such?
The Masonic Light program
Yes.
in the 1970s.
And it's still going strong, or how?
Well, as far as it's picking back up, it had been virtually forgotten about. In fact, I felt pretty bad because I didn't know it existed when I became a Master Mason, and I've completed enough to have probably done the darn thing before I knew it existed, and they don't allow retroactivity. You have to have been signed up for the program while you were doing the things. Huh?
It's a reflection on the end.
It's a reflection on probably on me that I didn't find out about it. Anything else? Then I probably have run over.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Hold this.